Welcome to the show that takes up no more than 5 minutes of your time, but could help you gain massive real estate knowledge. It's 5 Minutes in Real Estate with best-selling author Shane Willis.
Hello. It's Shane Willis, the Pensacola real estate expert, bringing you today's episode. Hope everybody had a good weekend. It is Monday, August 6th right now. And I want to let you know I'm probably not going to have an episode. I may have an episode tomorrow. I may be able to do it before we leave. But probably not going to have an episode the next couple of days on the 7th and 8th. Wife has got us a condo down at the beach tomorrow, so we'll be heading out there tomorrow. It's my birthday on the 8th, and the 7th we got tickets to Imagine Dragons. So we'll be heading over to the Wharf, hanging out there. If you listen to this and you happen to go to Imagine Dragons and you see me at the concert, say hey. I may have 1 or 12 cocktails in me, but say hey anyways. So I may not have episodes come out on the 7th and 8th, but I do have a blog post already scheduled, some following up even on today's episode. So if you get over to shanewillis.com/blog, you will see the latest episode. Today, we're going to talk about some conversations that I had over the weekend. I found some data to back it up. And it was a conversation that was a realistic conversation with a seller. We used to have, and I had to have these conversations with buyers. I've had them the last couple of years, especially 2017, 2018. I've had some investor buyers that keep looking at me going, man, I used to never buy anything under, over 150. But even though with the rental income I get, I'm having to spend 170 now. It doesn't I don't like that. Things are going up. I'm like, okay. And I've had some buyers that somebody's asking $250 for the place, and they're like, let's write an offer at $175. No, that's not this market right now. But conversely, this past weekend, I had to have a conversation with the seller, because the seller said, hey, listen, everybody's thinking that stuff's just going to sell, and I expect an offer on this in 3 days. And I went, well, that might not be realistic. And he said, well, it's a seller's market. And his price point, he's right. And I'm not saying we won't get an offer in 3 days. What I am saying, however, is that to expect it in 3 days is unrealistic by far. And I think sellers today need to understand that things have started to change across the country. So I'm going to read an article that came out. I'm going to read a little bit from the data. I'm going to read a little bit of what's going on in the supply chain. I'm going to read a little bit of what's going on in the demand chain. Has that hit our area as hard? No, not as hard. Not at those price points. As a matter of fact, I pulled up this morning because I got some morning reports. I always get them on usually Sunday nights going into Monday. So I did look at those this morning to see where price points were in Escambia and Santa Rosa County. Anything under 200 is still considered a hyper seller's market because there's less than 3 months worth of inventory. It's 2 point something months worth of inventory. Under 100 is just crazy. There's like not even 1 month's inventory there. So looking for a $70,000 or $80,000 house right now is, you better be prepared to pounce. Between 3 and 350, it is still slightly tilted towards the sellers at 5.6 months worth of inventory. But if you remember, 6 months worth of inventory is considered a neutral market. So it's really, really close. And 450 to 500 around here actually is tilted more towards the buyer's market. But this particular episode, I wanted to kind of talk to us about things we're seeing around the country, because it might not be here yet, but this is a great crystal ball for us to see what's coming. All right, so the data, existing home sales dropped in June for the third straight month. Purchases of new homes are at their slowest pace in 8 months, and inventory, which plunged for years, has begun to grow. So we're starting to see inventory grow a little bit across the country. Prices for existing homes did climb 6.4% in May, but that's the smallest gain since early of 2017. So we are seeing some gains still in property, and I'm going to just tell you, I'm going to give you a hint of where we're going to end this. We're not seeing defaults. We're not seeing Declines was actually the word I was looking for, not defaults, although the defaults are actually lower than they've been in a long, long time. We're not seeing decline in values. Home prices, that's a Monday morning word, prices. How about home prices is what we were trying to say. Home prices are plateauing. Okay, so this was a company out of Seattle, if I remember the thing. Yeah. Home prices are plateauing. People are saying, let's just bide our time. Buyers are not willing to jump in as much across the country. We're still seeing it a lot here. I had a property in Foley, put on the market, had 5 offers in about 6 days. Now it was at the 120 price point. So, okay. I've got other properties now that have been on the market for 6 months at the 500,000 price point. We just have to become realistic about what we understand. Home prices are plateauing. People are just wanting to buy their time and not rush. If they wait another 6 or 9 months to get what they want, they're starting to do that. Buyers are starting to do that, so sellers need to understand this. Again, this is happening across the country, not necessarily in our area yet. But when I say, hey, it's a really good time to sell right now, especially in certain price points, this is where I'm getting that data from, because we know this is coming towards us. So if we know it's coming, and I say, hey, it's a really good time to sell, great. Buyers are kind of biding their time. I've got a couple of tenants that have told me, hey, we're seriously kicking around the idea of buying a house. We want to talk to you about it, but we just renewed a lease. I know you just renewed a lease because you're renting from me. But they're like, hey, we just renewed a lease till next summer. But next summer, we may look at it. If not, we may just do it another. We're not in a big rush. Okay, so that's a sentiment that's going to start creeping up now. With prices moving more or less sideways, increase no more quickly than the increase in value is probably going to be no more than the increase in wages over the next few years. So that's kind of our data. That's just our data. Let's talk about supply lines. So some of the most expensive markets, you're starting to see prices plateau quite a bit. You see, what was it? San Jose was up 12%. Those big jumps are from low numbers, so the housing crunch is still a serious problem. That's inventory has increased quite a bit, but we're seeing less competition. So you see the inventory going up, but we're trying to manage. This is Dustin Miller, an agent in Portland, said he's trying to manage sellers' expectation, something he hasn't had to do since the last boom. And that's really what I wanted to talk about, because the seller that I met with over the weekend really had an unrealistic expectation. But since 15, I really hadn't had to manage that too much, because, well, it's been a hyper seller's market. So we differentiate enough, put it out there enough, and it gets sold. Okay. Now when someone says 3%, or 3 days, excuse me, I want it in 3 days and I'm expecting full. Now, hang on now. Hang on now. Let's talk through this. Buyers are wanting to shop and take their time. This was the same stuff they were talking about with the data. The data's showing it. Now the supply line's looking at it. Buyers want to shop and take their time as opposed to having to rush to throw in offers. It is the market correcting itself. At some point you hit a peak of momentum and then things level off. So we've been racing as a sellers. We've been racing in values and very easily sold. Now things are kind of starting to level off. We've got the seasonal leveling off. It's August now. So your fall is a typical seasonal, although in October we see a big uptick, especially around the base. There's a new fiscal year that starts, so we see a lot of people transferring in. So we do see a little tick up there. But you got your seasonal, and then things are just, buyers are wanting to take time. So as a seller, we need to understand that. As long as we have a healthy labor market, we do have a healthy labor market here in Pensacola, in the Pensacola area, Navy Federal. I know some friends that are at University of West Florida, actually come back to town, moved back to Pensacola to head over and teach at University of West Florida, which is my alma mater. Nice, go Argos. Looking forward to a good football season again this year. But the rate of home sales, new and existing, has probably peaked. That's what they're saying. Now, that's the rate of sales, not the value. It's just a number. So as we start to see that number increase or decrease. It will affect pricing, but right now, everybody's saying that's kind of plateauing a little bit. So if you don't have that hyper seller's market, instead you have a plateau, you have to do things differently. That's the conversation I was having with the seller over the weekend. That's the conversation I wanted to have here. New records. CoreLogic's Case-Shiller data hinted at the softening. 20-city index of property values rose 6.6% in the last 12 months. But that's the smallest decline they've seen in years, or the smallest increase. Now, that report actually goes on and says, for many Americans, first-time home buying is still out of reach when you start looking at all the college debt that people have. But it goes to affordability. And affordability here along the Panhandle has always been one of our benefits of living here. It is much more affordable here. So that doesn't really apply to us right now, because our first-time home buyers are spending, between $100 and $150, maybe $170 to get a decent home. Whereas the average first-time home across the country is $276,900. So big difference between $270,000 and $170,000, especially if you're a first-time home buyer. As a matter of fact, this particular Case-Shiller report said affordability is becoming a major headache for home buyers. The Economist said you're seeing home sales rise in Alabama, where things are affordable, but in places like California, people just aren't buying. They're just not buying. So no one knows how far, how fast the borrowing costs may rise with the feds as well. So now we got the feds going to be raising rates. I'm not being doom and gloom. I'm also not going to blow sunshine, because it's not all rainbows and sunshine. There are things that are coming. As a seller, it is a good time to sell right now, because we're still not dealing with it in this area. They are coming around the bend, if you will. Now, the report goes on to say nobody thinks that housing prices are going to decline, and with the mortgages still doing quite well, performing quite well, nobody thinks we're going to have a crash either. Now, one of my more popular episodes over the last month was the episode I did where I said recession 2020. Thinking there's going to be a recession 2020, but it's not housing that's going to be affected. We do, however, think that housing affordability is going down a little bit because of the rates being risen. That's going to go down. And I think housing values are kind of plateauing a little bit. We're not going to see the 6, 7, 8% increase in value we've been seeing, and said it's probably going to be closer to 1 to 2. That's what it said, a sideways market. Anyways, I swear, every morning I cannot walk this block without somebody doing yard work. I just can't do it. It's impossible. And there's only 30 houses in this neighborhood. You would think I'd be able to walk one morning without it. Nope, not doing it. All right, that's all I got for you today. As always, if you've not subscribed to get the tips, tricks, graphs, infographics, get over to 5minutesinrealestate.com. That's 5minutesinrealestate.com. Also, if you've not subscribed on your player of choice to get the podcast updates, get to your player of choice, Google Play, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher. I think we're on all of them. iHeartRadio, YouTube, all of them. Get over there, hit subscribe, hit like, give me a thumbs up, give me a heart, give me a nice comment. I always like nice comments. And don't forget to get over to shanewillis.com/blog for the next couple of days, so we can get updated on some of the stuff that we've got. Tomorrow, actually, we're going to have a follow-up on today, because I got some more data that I wanted to follow up on. But I always end the podcast the same way. I never ask for any money for these, although it costs me money to make them. I do ask that if I brought you any value at all in this or any other episode, that you share it on social media. Have a great Monday.